Well, we talked earlier about how people become millionaires. Let's start with starting your own business. 74% of self-made millionaires are people who start their own business. So I want to give you just a few recommendations that you need to follow in order to start and build any kind of a business. Number one, first rule is competence. You must be very good at what you do. You must never go into anything if you don't believe that you can become better than 90% of the people working in that field. You must pick a field that you enjoy, and then you must commit yourself to becoming absolutely excellent at doing the most important thing that customers value. So competence is really important. Most self-owned businesses are started by people who are really, really good at something and who were not appreciated where they were, so they went and they started their own business where they could be paid more. Now, the second part of starting your own business is customers. Remember that sales success is the key to business success. Is that all of business success comes from high sales. All business problems come from low sales. Your job is to focus all of your time and attention on making sales. One of the first questions I ask when I consult with businesses is, where are the customers going to come from? How are you going to attract and keep enough customers in order to make this business worthwhile? And that must be your focal point for everything that you do. Now, the third part of starting your own business is cash flow. Cash flow is the life of the business. You must preserve cash at all times. You must guard cash. You must be jealous about cash. You must demand payment quickly in terms of cash. You must put off cash payments. You must never run out of cash because it's like the blood to the brain of the business. As long as you have cash, you can survive. If you run out of cash, you can go broke overnight. So always be thinking in terms of cash. How much cash do we have? Now here's the fourth key to starting your own business, is study and learn every detail of the business. Even if you take a week, a month, a year, 2 years, do your homework. Pay the price. The time that you spend studying and learning about your business will pay off 10, 20, 50 times later when you actually start the business and get going. Here's a strategy for you. Start small and expand out of your profits. This is called bootstrapping. Many people say, I can't start a business because I don't have enough money. Oh, nonsense. Many people start businesses with nothing. There's 1,000 businesses in America that you can start for $25 or $50 or $100. There's books written about the subject. All you need to do is get some samples and take some orders and start making money, start making sales. Because the key to business is to buy something and then sell it at a profit. Everything in business is buying something and selling it for more than you paid for it. And selling it for more than the total cost of what you paid for it, so that at the end of the day, you have a profit that you can reinvest in building your business. One of the things I suggest that people do is start in MLM, or network marketing, multi-level marketing, network marketing. You can start for a few dollars. You can start with some very highly motivated people. You can start with some very good products or services and just sell them to people that you know. And say, here's something really neat, works like a darn, I use it myself, give it a try. And you can actually build a network marketing business that will enable you to achieve financial independence, or, in your part-time, a very strong second income source. You can start in someone else's business and learn the ropes. One of the best pieces of advice if you want to get into a business is go to someone who's in that business and offer to work for them for free. I had a good friend who started off his career this way. Nobody would hire him. He wanted to get into the financial industry. No one would hire him. Finally, he picked the company he wanted to work for. He picked the top person working for that company. He went and he said, I'll tell you what, I'll work for you for free for 1 month. At the end of the month, you can let me go. But if you decide to keep me on, you can pay me for the month, and you can pay me what you would pay anybody else starting in this position. But I'll work for you for 1 month for nothing, and you can decide. And he did, and he was kept on, and within a few years, he was a millionaire. So, use your brains and energy rather than capital and investment to get going. Use hustle. Use what is called sweat equity. And by the way, about 99% of all businesses are started with sweat equity, with you putting in your time, your hours, your own sweat, rather than money or cash. The key to success in every case is sales ability, and sales ability is learnable. Inc. magazine had a study recently, and they said, if you have the ability to sell, you're crazy not to start your own business, because the ability to sell is the most important single skill in any new business. Well, if you're going to start your own business, create a business plan before starting. You can get software on this. You can get books. You can get audio programs. But a business plan is a list of every single thought and consideration. What you're going to sell, who you're going to sell it to, how much you're going to sell it for, how you're going to advertise, how you're going to promote, how much you're going to earn, and so on. The very act of writing out a business plan helps you think through all the critical details so that you don't make the mistakes that lead to bankruptcy for other people. And then once you start, focus 80% of your time on sales and marketing. Get up every morning, get out there, and start selling. I got an email from a woman recently with a complete story of all of her problems with her business. And she said, what should I do? And I said, just sell. Regards, Brian. And she wrote back to me and she said, I was offended by the curtness of your response. And then I read it several times and I realized that's the solution to all my problems. Just sell. Just do it. Practice frugality in all things at all times. During the dot-com boom, people would raise money, then they'd go out and spend millions of dollars on offices and not on sales. And then they wouldn't get the sales and the company would go broke and all the cash was gone. Your job is to spend as little as you possibly can. Be cheap, cheap, cheap. I call this the canary song. Cheap, cheap, cheap. And spend all of your time and effort just on getting sales. I have a good friend who's a management consultant and says, remember this, if it's not revenue, it's expense. And focus your efforts on revenue, not expense. And finally, in starting your own business, resolve to learn from every mistake. Learn from every experience. Keep asking yourself, what did I learn from this experience? And write it down. Well, many people listening to this say, what about real estate? Well, if you want to build a real estate fortune, it's eminently possible. Many of the big fortunes in America are based on real estate. So here's the key definition of real estate. Real estate is its future earning ability. Real estate is positive cash flow. A piece of real estate is only valuable to the degree to which it generates a positive cash flow that is at least 10 to 12 times the cost of the property. Real estate is valued at 10 to 12 times its positive cash flow after 100% of expenses, debt service, taxes, maintenance, and everything else. So that's what real estate is. You want to get into real estate, and you want to build up an estate in real estate that generates positive cash flow. The rule is, like with your own business, start small and grow with experience. Start small and grow with experience. One of the very best of all strategies for becoming a real estate millionaire is called buy 'em, fix 'em. It's an old strategy, but what it means is you find a house that needs a lot of work and you buy it at a really good price. Sometimes you can just take over the mortgage because the person has let the house decline, so it's not worth very much. Move into the house and spend your evenings and weekends fixing up the house. Once the house is fixed up, you can then rent the house for more than the cost of the mortgage to a good tenant and move on and do it again. I cannot tell you how many people I've met with limited educations, new immigrants to this country, who had no other strategy but buy 'em, fix 'em, and in 10 to 15 years, they own $2, $3, $4 million worth of real estate. They had an income of $8, $10, $12,000 a month, and they were fixed for life. So, use sweat equity to build value in your home. Again, just spend all the time yourself. Learn how to do renovations. Learn how to paint. Learn how to put in carpets and do the gardening yourself and clean it up. Then repeat the process of buy 'em, fix 'em 3 or 4 times each year. Some people aim to have one house that they buy, move into, clean up, and rent every 3 months. Once you get really good at it, you can do it in 2 months. If you're really ambitious, you can then start to hire people who will help you, and you can get these houses turned around and re-rented within 30 days. I know some people who have as many as 200 and 300 houses that they've bought this way. Now, you may ask, what about buying real estate with no money down? Well, buying real estate with no money down, or a very little, sometimes you can buy it with just a few dollars, requires what is called a motivated seller. A motivated seller is a person who wants to get rid of the house. Now, a motivated seller can be a person who just went broke, can be a person who's going through a divorce. It can be the family of a person who died and left them the house and they live in another part of the country. They just want to sell it. Sometimes it can be a foreclosure. The bank has foreclosed on the house and now they just want to get rid of it. Sometimes the person is desperate or changing their lifestyle or got a job offer and wants to move away. In any case, you find the motivated seller. And what the real estate professionals will tell you is you use a 110-3-1 rule. which means you have to look at 100 houses that are for sale to find one where the person is willing to sell it below its value with no down payment, no money down. You have to look at 100, you have to find 10 that make sense based on your parameters, and then you have to make offers on 3 of those houses and get one. So out of 100 houses, you end up getting one house. I know people who will do this, so you'll get better and better at it, and all they do is go around and buy inexpensive houses. You know what happens? After a few years, 1 out of 100, they buy the house, they clean it up, they re-rent it, they refinance it, and move on. After a few years, they've got $1 million worth of property, and they have no money of their own in the investment. So the process of buying a house with no money down is offer to buy it with no money down. You can just call. My friend Robert Allen does this in public seminars. He'll take a page out of the newspaper with homes for sale. He'll plug them into a telephone system that the whole audience can hear, and from that town, from that city, and he'll call them up and say, hello, this is Robert Allen. Would you sell your house for no money down? And he doesn't make more than 3 or 4 calls before the person is willing to sell their house with no money down. It's the most amazing darn thing. It's happening all the time. Now, if you need to make an offer on a house, lowball the house. Offer 50 or 60% of the offering price and offer to pay cash. You see, if you set up a bank that will lend you 80% on a first mortgage for the house that you're going to move into temporarily while you're fixing it up, well then, if you can get the house for 60 or 70 or 75% of its value, let's say it's a $100,000 house and you offer $60,000 or $70,000 cash, the bank will give you 80. You can move into the house, use the balance to clean up the house, rent the house out, and you now have a $100,000 house and $20,000 worth of equity. Quickly clean up the house. The keys to cleaning up a house are to, first of all, paint it so it looks really good from the outside. Clean up the yard, do the landscaping, clean up the whole yard, paint everything, and carpet the inside of the house. It's absolutely amazing. Painting inside and out, new carpeting throughout, plus nice landscaping will change the value of a house by many thousands of dollars and enable you to get a mortgage or enable you to rent out the house. Then repeat the process, and each time you do it, you get better and smarter. You'll do it for less money. You'll do it in less time. You'll buy better homes. You'll make better deals. And after you've done 5 or 10 houses, you're going to become a genius at buying them, fixing them up, renting them out, putting them into your portfolio, and so on. The key consideration is always the net cash flow that's possible from renting out the property. How much cash are you going to get back every month as a result of owning this property above and beyond all the costs? Now, one key point with regard to commercial real estate. People ask, well, what about apartment buildings or retail? The key consideration there is, first of all, the possible rental rates. How much can you rent the property for relative to how much you're going to have to pay? So you check the area carefully in advance. The second key to success is good tenants. And by the way, good tenants are the key to success in residential real estate as well. Avoid what are called tenants from hell by carefully doing background checks on your tenants. If you have good tenants, it's a dream. If you have bad tenants, it's a nightmare. The key in commercial real estate is find good tenants. Find really nice people who have good credit ratings, solid business, people who will pay in full, on schedule. Do your background checks. Never believe anything or take anything anyone tells you on faith when you're looking at renting your property to them. Now, your goal, of course, is to buy the property and rent out the property, gradually increasing the rents, and then mortgage or remortgage the property based on cash flow, and then take that mortgage money and reinvest it in more real estate. Important point. If you can buy a piece of property and remortgage it later, none of that money is taxable. I just processed a piece of property where we remortgaged it for $1 million above what we paid for it 10 years ago, and all that money goes into your pocket, no taxes payable, just by getting a bigger mortgage on a property that is now earning more money.